Very, very good evening. Hope you're all well. My apologies for the earlier transmission. We have got a lot to get through, and I have got to get to another meeting because things are looking interesting. That's all we say. I want to share everything with you as much as I can in as much time as I can. So let's get on.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
Wednesday the 8th of May 2024. My name is Raj Amir. It's a Recusant Nine transmission. Many of you have been in touch with me over the last few days, particularly after Sunday night's transmission, trying to understand, make sense of how now that the council is in no overall control, what will happen next and how any opposition party actually can form a coalition. So I wanted to do some of that this evening so you understand the administration, the rules, the regulations. The meeting's on the 22nd, I think this time in 2 weeks time, so not next week, the week after. I think it's in the interest of as many of you as possible to get to this council meeting because there will be a vote, and I'll go through all of that with you. The second part is I want to concentrate on some of the shenanigans taking place in the background, particularly by the so-called Oldham group. There's nothing Oldham about the Oldham group. They are essentially 4 Pakistani men who are working together, and I don't even think all 4 of them are on the same page. And we'll get onto that. We'll get into the dodginess of Kami G and what I call Pakistani politics. Now, I've been called a racist for claiming it's Pakistani politics, but I'll quantify why I describe it as Pakistani politics and why I find it very uncomfortable. But we'll get to that next, as we will also get to the village idiot. Of course, what I mean is Councillor Mark Hints. I saw his statement this morning and it did remind me of the village idiot. He has no idea what he's talking about or how to go about trying to achieve what he's talking about. It's just complete gobbledygook nonsense, and I'm not sure whether he posted it this morning or whether he posted it in the evening after he had perhaps, sat down at home and opened a bottle of wine or something. I'm not really sure, but it's gobbledygook nonsense. But in all of this, there are some serious people and some serious players and some councillors, number of councillors who are trying to do the right thing. So I'll acknowledge all of them as we get through this evening. Now, what I want to bring up first is I want to go through. Let's do this way. I want to go through how it works, okay? Ordinarily, what will happen is at the first council meeting, I don't want the purple colour, I don't think. Let me try and find black. At the first council meeting, full council meeting, they have a meal. They sit and have a meal together. 2, they elect the leader of the council, not the cabinet, the leader. And then 3, they elect the mayor. The mayor is usually a formality, okay, and the leader is historically a formality also, because the Labour Party, for most of the time you guys have been following politics, have controlled 30 plus seats. So whoever is elected the leader of the Labour Party becomes the leader of the council. Now, the Oldham Times posted something deceptive today, and none of you should be surprised by the Oldham Times posting something deceptive, but here we go. This is what the Oldham Times posted today. Oldham Council leader set to return despite local elections setback. Arud Shah is not the leader of Oldham Council because the council closed down. And she was not voted in again for another term despite setbacks at the local town council. Some of you have been in touch. Arud Shah was voted in as leader of the Labour group. Howard Sykes has been voted in leader of the Lib Dems. And I understand the Conservatives have a meeting tomorrow where I would presume Graham Sheldon will be re-elected leader of the Conservatives. They, along with all the independents, and the only other registered party, the Failsworth Independent Party, will go to the first full council meeting. And they will vote in the leader. So what happens is this, because you've all asked me, so I'll go through the process with you. The Labour Party will propose Arud Shah. The problem the Labour Party have got is that they now only have 27 votes. Theoretically, the opposition combined, who have 33 votes, can reject Arud Shah as the leader of Oldham Council. They can reject her. So first base is that the opposition councillors have to reject Arud Shah. Now, they all ran on an anti-Arud Shah, anti-Labour platform. All of them. All the opposition councillors ran on an anti-Labour platform. Every independent did. Every Conservative, every Liberal Democrat. Now, the Liberal Democrats have come forward, and here it is. Howard Sykes, around the time that I did my transmission on Sunday night, independently of anything to do with me, Howard Sykes has come forward to say, we are ready for a future without Labour. And he's put the mantle out that he wants to form a coalition. That's what he's done. Labour have lost control of Oldham, and the Liberal Democrats have already ruled out any formal coalition with them. So the Liberal Democrats have said no to Labour. Remember, I wrote to the Liberal Democrat leader and he responded he would not engage in any form of partnership with the Labour Party, and he's confirming that in his statement. There are 9 Liberal Democrats, largest group after Labour on 27, and 8 Conservatives. It is not clear what the numbers are for the others, whether they are actually independent individuals or actually groups just claiming to be independent. 16 in total. It is now for the so-called independents to organise themselves and tell everyone who is in what group, if any. It is possible to replace this tired Labour administration with something better. But for that to work, politicians in all other groups and none will need to work together and start talking to each other. So, we have been facilitating these conversations, I and a group of others, offline before Howard's statement and post Howard's statement, because I knew this is what we are heading for and I knew what we would have to do at the next stage. So I've been lining things up as best as I can. And remember, I'm not a politician and I have no personal interest in this. Before anyone says anything, no one is paying me, apart from yourselves with the odd cup of coffee and some subscriptions for 75 pence a week. No one is paying me. I have no vested interest in this apart from this is my town. I am raising my daughter here and I go and visit my mother at the cemetery here. I mean, in the scheme of things, that is it. It's my town, it's my hometown, and I'm trying my best for my hometown and my people, and I've been doing this for the last 5 years and more. Okay, so that's my vested interest in this. I care. I know it's difficult for politicians to accept, but I want nothing from any of you. So, Howard Sykes has put forward a proposal. Now, I know meetings have taken place between the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats. I wanted that to happen. I helped facilitate that. I'm happy that's happened. And the Liberal Democrats has set out initially what they want as policy positions. You know, in order for a partnership to come forward, a coalition, this isn't about people. Well, to the grown-ups in the room, this isn't about people and positions and what's in it for me. This is about the policies that we all have wanted to see pushed over the line that have been blocked by the Labour Party administration over a number of years. So the Liberal Democrats, and I'll write this down, have come forward with this. One, they want a public inquiry into the CSC. Two, they want to talk about places for everyone. They want another vote on that. We're not destroying our green belt. We've all said this. The Lib Dems have championed it from the beginning. Irrespective of what anyone says, the Lib Dems have championed the green belt and protected the green belt from the beginning. Even when I was criticising the Lib Dems, I could not criticise them for that. Three, they want to save the Coliseum Theatre. I think that's been clear from the beginning, so they're not hiding that either. They want to save the Coliseum Theatre. Again, it's a hugely popular position across the people of this town. This is not none of these are party political positions, are they? The CSE is not a party political position. Telling Andy Burnham to shove it, and we're not building on our green belt, is not a party political position. The Coliseum is not a party political position, and they want to clean up Oldham. It's a mess. The litter and all of that. They want to revamp that. Whatever Arud Shah's policy has been, it's not worked. The Conservatives have come forward themselves. And they've published this. They've published this because these are the grown-ups in the room. They're letting the public know what is taking place. And sorry, I just want to bring what the Conservatives have said exactly so I don't misquote them. Give me 1 second. They've listed their priorities. 1, CSE. Exactly the same. 2, it's not exactly the places for everyone, but it's essentially the same. Protect the green belt. So in protect the green belt, they've got to agree. It's the same thing. The places for everyone needs looking at, re-looking at. The third one they've come up with is they want to invest. This is similar here. So sorry, Lewis, I'll change it around. Invest in basic services. They also want to clean up the town. Potholes, yeah. Littering. Combating fly tipping. And the one where they differ, but I don't think it's going to be an issue with anyone. Well, I hope not. In fact, they've got 2, haven't they? They want to invest in the districts. So they want to make sure Chadderton gets its fair share of money, Failsworth gets its fair share of money, Royton, Shaw, Saddleworth gets its fair share of money. That's what they want. Invest in districts. I don't think the Lib Dems will disagree with that. And they've got a 5th one. And the 5th one is to freeze council tax. Now that's going to be an issue, but it's not something that we can't work over. What actually the Conservatives mean by that is reduce waste. And they talk about reducing waste. So look at where the council can genuinely make savings. Such as wasting money on pay rises for councillors and so on and so on. Yeah, there are things that can be done. I've spoken offline and there are things that they can agree on. So this is the basis of the Lib Dem and Conservative coalition. And that takes you to 17. 9 and 8 gives you 17. It'll be a minority coalition because they won't get to 30. Right? They won't get to 30. The Failsworth Independent Party, who have got 2 councillors, haven't posted anything yet, but I've had conversations offline. They want transparency in the council. So things like public questions, people being able to ask the questions themselves, the right of reply, freedom of information request asked properly, that sort of stuff. Public transparency in the council, and of course the CSE. And 3, they want a fair share for Failsworth. Completely reasonable. And from what I can tell, whilst they may or may not go in the formal coalition, I don't know. My advice would be go in the formal coalition, because you then get positions on the council, which I'll come back to later. But even if they're not, what they'll do is, in return for the council coalition talking to them, they'll support and vote through the coalition with their 2. Then that leaves the Royton Independents, who've got nothing to say, and the other Failsworth Independents, who again, I'm told, want similar sort of outcomes to the Failsworth Independents, even though they don't get on with each other. I don't think there's much difference in terms of their policies, and a supply and demand arrangement there as well. So that takes these guys up to 21. The Royton Independents really need to get with the programme. This is an opportunity for the Royton Independents to genuinely deliver for the people of Royton. They've got 2 councillors, they've won a second councillor. This is a genuine opportunity, but I'm not concerned about Maggie or Jade. And I mean that genuinely, I'm not concerned, because they stood on an anti-Labour platform. They stood on a pro-CSE investigation platform. All the things I've talked about. Maggie Hurley went to the Coliseum, saved the Coliseum meetings. She's got a big issue with potholes and fly tipping and all of that. So what they've talked about, if Maggie Hurley and Jade Hughes vote with Arood Shah, they'll never get re-elected again. And the Royton Independents on their own are never going to be able to control the council. So I expect them to do the right thing for the town, for the borough, and vote with Howard Sykes as leader. So the next thing will come is Howard Sykes will be proposed as leader. So providing Arood Shah is rejected, Howard Sykes will be proposed as leader. The 27 Labour will say no. I expect the 2 Shaw Independents, Mark Ince and Lisa Dafesey, to also either vote with Labour, or if they've got any common sense, abstain. Otherwise, they'll be forever seen as supporters of Arood Shah. So if he's got any common sense, Jack, I understand he can't support Howard Sykes as leader, because Howard Sykes is in competition with him. Howard Sykes is the last remaining Lib Dem councillor in Shaw, after Mark Ince has taken both of those seats in an election. So I don't expect Mark Ince to vote with Howard Sykes, but I expect him to abstain rather than vote in support of Labour. Agreed? So far? So we've got, on the yeses, we've got 9 Lib Dem, we've got 8 Conservatives, we've got 4 Failsworth for both factions, we've got 2 Royton Independents. That takes us to 23. Can we beat 27? Can we beat 27 is the question to get the coalition over the line. Providing Mark Ince and his team abstain. Providing those 2 abstain, can we get to 27? And I believe we're close. I'll tell you why we're close. Pakistani politics is being played out, which is why we're close. Shoaib Akhtar from Werneth has refused to join the Muslim 8 because they're not 8, Kami G's team. So Shoaib Akhtar has refused to join. So there's one there. What Shoaib does, Naila Ibrahim usually does. Naila Ibrahim, remember, is Kami G's cousin, but she'll vote that way. Then we have Montaz, and I'm going to see him again now, but as it stands, Montaz is here. And my understanding is Aisha, the St Mary's young councillor, is also here and is refusing to get in bed with Kami G and his team. So we've got 23 plus 4 will equal 27. So you have 27. No, so that's Labour. 2 abstain in an ideal world. 27, yes. That leaves 4 of the OGs. And this is why I can't stand Pakistani politics. Sorry, Louise, you are right. It was 9 o'clock. I'm afraid I've got to go to a meeting at 10, so I I put a message up on Telegram, but I impromptu went online, I think it was about 1:45. So that's where we're up to. Now, let me bring myself up. When the Oldham group stood on a platform, when Naveed Chauhan stood, yeah, when Zahir Ali stood, both as independents, they claimed they were doing so on a boycott Labour platform. And the people in the wards voted for them and voted out Labour candidates. For Naveed, they voted out Ross Birch, the Labour Party candidate, councillor for a long time. And in Alexander, they voted against Ghazala Rana, who was the Labour choice after the previous councillor resigned. So they've ran on an anti-Labour Party ticket. Cameron Ghaffar and Abdul Wahid, were elected on a Conservative ticket, remember, against the Labour Party. That's what they were elected on, a Conservative ticket. The problem we've now got... Thank you, Pauline. I voted for Naveed on the strength of that promise of no Labour. The problem we've now got is what I call Pakistani politics. Clan-based politics. An aggressive sort of intimidatory form of politics. It's a sort of politics I don't like. I've never liked and I've never participated in. So this is what's happened. On the night of the election, Kami G was angling for how he could be leader of Oldham Council. Really, that's his mindset, how he could be leader of Oldham Council. And he was claiming he had 8. He was claiming he had the 8 Muslims with him. You know, the 7 Muslims independents with him. And he was going around telling people he's got 8 and he wants to be the leader of Oldham Council. Then as it played out, and this is what I've been able to piece together, and from conversations I've had, it became clear that Shoaib Akhtar and Naila Ibrahim, even though Naila Ibrahim is his cousin, weren't with him. So in his head, really, his 8 went down to 6. And then, of course, he has come to the realisation, because he was there today as well, with his forms trying to get Montaz to sign up to his group. Azad, I'm going to see my uncle immediately after this, to have it out with him. Azad hasn't signed any papers because he's told me he hasn't signed any papers. And he's not going to lie to me to my face. What he has told me is he's been continuously contacted. Other councillors, the white councillors, have also contacted me and told me that either Cameron Gaffer or members of his team have got hold of their phone numbers and trying to contact them with all sorts of nonsense around you've got to join a group, join with us, all of that sort of stuff. Because he's making a move. He's hustling. I get that. He's hustling. Hustling on the border of harassing, but he's hustling. That I get. They've all said no to him, by the way. The likes of Mark Wilkinson have said no to him. Brian Hoban won't even entertain him. The Conservatives have laughed him away. And the Lib Dems aren't interested. So he has a conversation with Shoaib Akhtar. The Pakistani politics comes into play. Kamiji wanted to become leader or deputy leader. You know, his ambitions went down as the numbers went down, on the basis that he uses it as a platform to stand as MP in Oldham West, Chadderton and Royton against me. I ain't got an issue with anyone standing. My issue with him was telling me he wasn't going to stand, and we had an agreement on how we were going to take more Labour seats out locally, including in Chadderton Central and Chadderton North, and then he put up candidates there and scuppered that and tried to put up a white candidate against Lewis Quigg to try and oust Lewis Quigg. My issue is you can't trust him. He lies. He'll lie to your face. So him and Shoaib Akhtar had a meeting. Shoaib now is an independent, remember, because he left the Labour Party. Him and Naila left the Labour Party right in the end. Now, contrary to what they claim of leaving the Labour Party for Gaza or Palestinians, that's nonsense. They went on the doorsteps and found that the people of Werneth weren't going to vote for them. So they left for self-preservation. They left for self-preservation. Now Shoaib, who by the way I get on with, I have no issue with Shoaib personally. Shoaib now is looking at the situation and thinks, okay, where do I go next? After we've all done the heavy lifting, remember Shoaib Akhtar was the deputy leader of Oldham Council at one point and repeatedly voted to block the public inquiry into child sex exploitation. He wants to stand for MP. And Shoaib Akhtar and Cameron Gaffer and his team have come to an arrangement. They'll support they'll support Cameron Gaffer. They'll support Cameron Gaffer to try and get deputy leader or something in Oldham Council, and then in return, the Pakistani contingent supporters of Cameron Gaffer and his, this pro-Palestinian Muslim entourage will support Shoaib Akhtar to stand for MP for Oldham West, Chadderton and Royton. I have a problem with sectarian politics. I've had a problem with sectarian politics from the beginning. It's why you believe me, you trust me. I could have played these sectarian politics and benefited myself if I'd wanted to. It doesn't benefit my town. It doesn't benefit my people. It doesn't take us forward it doesn't take us forward in any way. So I'm not interested in the sectarian politics. So if Shoaib Akhtar wants to stand against me, bring it on. If Cameron Gaffer wants to stand against me, bring it on. But the problem we've got is what these idiots want is to promote themselves. They don't want to serve the town. We've got the Lib Dems come forward, as you've seen, with some clear policies. It's not about Howard being leader saying Sam Al-Hamdani must be this position, Kenyon must be that position, Bishop must be that position. They've not said any of that. They've laid out the priorities. The grown-ups in the room have laid out the priorities for the people of the town. The Conservatives have laid out the priorities. Both factions of the Failsworth Independents and the Mark Wilkinson and Sandra Ball's team have laid out what they consider to be priorities for their own communities and priorities for the people of Oldham. The Royton Independents, well, they'll have to vote with Howard. Otherwise, they're voting in support of Arud Shah. And that'll destroy them. Aisha and Montaz have been sensible so far and not succumbed to pressure. I'm not saying they won't succumb to pressure before the 22nd, but so far they haven't succumbed to the pressure of the OGs, of Cameron Gaffer and the OGs. Now I'm very clear. So Councillor Howard Sykes, Councillor Graham Sheldon, Councillor Lewis Quigg and all the others, Sam Al-Hamdani, I have a dossier on Cameron Gaffer. I will share that in the morning with Councillor Howard Sykes, so he's fully aware of who Cameron Gaffer is. And if Howard Sykes gives into blackmail, I'll get to that in a moment, and appoints Cameron Gaffer into a senior leadership position, then I have no alternative but to release that information into the public domain. I also have information linked to Councillor Abdul Wahid. Now I'm hearing from my own sources, and I have no doubt and reason to doubt them, that Gaffer is now saying to people, if he doesn't get what he wants, his foe will vote with Arud Shah. Well, you'll be signing your death warrants, political death warrants, won't you? If Councillor Wahid, if Councillor Cameron Gaffer wants to sign with Arud Shah, let them. This town should not surrender to this style of politics. To Naveed Chauhan, to Zahir, you stood as champions of the community on an anti-Labour, boycott Labour platform. What you should be doing is what the grown-ups are doing from the other parties. You should be looking to your communities and using this as an opportunity to barter on behalf of your communities for things that they want. And I'll give you a number of examples. In Coldhurst, where I was raised, Westwood, there's an old, knackered football pitch opposite the old Grange School. We used to call it the old weather pitch. It's now full of broken glass, cars have been burnt out, and it's been derelict for the best part of 15 years. I'd ask the grown-up in the room with Howard Sykes is, of course I'll support the coalition. I also stood on an anti-boycott Labour platform. I can't vote with Labour. Also, I want nothing for myself. I'm here to serve my community. Can we look to see how we can bring this derelict, abandoned playing field back to life, and whether we can asset transfer it to a local group or do something with it so it's brought back to life and the children in the neighbourhood can use it? Grown up. Grown up. That's what the grown-ups do. Brian Hoban wants to talk about transparency and council meetings because he's been there from the beginning and seen what's gone on in the council meetings. And irrespective of what he wants of Failsworth, he wants us to have a conversation about members of the public being treated with respect and dignity when they go to a council meeting. If members of the public are asking questions, they can go and stand and ask the question themselves. Have a right to reply, not have 15 minutes for public questions. Bring it back to how it should have been. Grown-ups talking. If I was Aisha in St Mary's, Glodick, I wouldn't be talking about I want this position or I want that position, Cammy G style. I would be looking at my community and thinking, where can I make a difference? And the obvious place for me is the Pakistani Community Centre that has been closed down for some time. It's a valuable community resource. Is there any way we can either asset transfer that to a local group or the council peppercorn, rent it out to a local group, or somewhere bring it back to life so it has community value. That's what I'd be doing. The pro-Muslim councillors as an entourage, you can shout and scream about Gaza all you want, but what we can do from here is very little about Gaza, however we feel. But there are things we can do here for the Muslim community. As you know, I buried my mother in Chadderton Cemetery in back end of October. Members of my family were upset that my mother wasn't buried on the same day she died, because the tradition is to bury him as quickly as possible. We buried her the day after. As it stands, Oldham Council charge extra for burials after 3 o'clock. So if it's between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock or whatever, it's extra. And extra again at the weekends. We have no choice but to bury our dead as quickly as possible. It's not an economic decision. It's a religious decision, practicality. Waive the extra fees. Have it so that the fees are the same. Whether it's before 3 o'clock or between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whatever is reasonable on the daylight hours. If I took that back, it would have an immediate positive impact on the Muslim community in this town. That the council cares about you as well, on things that matter to you locally. Cammy G doesn't want that. Cammy G wants to be deputy leader of the council. And he's now, well, it appears to me that he's now trying to hold the council, not the council, the opposition to ransom. Naveed Chauhan, Zahir Ali, grow up. You were elected to represent the people on this town on an anti-Labour platform, on a pro-community platform. Go back into your communities. Find something of value that they want and take it back to say, we would like this looked at. This is, again, a once in a generational opportunity for all of us. This was not created by Gaza. This was not created by a handful of Muslim councillors who are standing on a pro-Palestinian platform. This opportunity was created by all of us over 5 years of relentless work. Serve your communities, Naveed. Zahir, I met you for the first time in the council chamber just before you were being elected. We exchanged pleasantries. I wished you well. Serve your community. Move away from this nonsense gangster politics. Serve your communities. This is never and should never be about any of you and what you want for yourselves. It should always be about the people of our town, of our borough, and serving their needs. Use this as an opportunity, I beg you. Step away from this nonsense. Get this over the line. This opportunity will not come again, because if we don't elect Howard Sykes, there is no alternative. It'll go back to Arood Shah and people will vote over Arood Shah, and you will have Arood Shah again as leader of Oldham Council. To the various independents, whatever our differences, whatever your issues with me, you stood on a platform of helping clean up this town. You can't support Arood Shah. You've got to support Howard Sykes. He's the only person capable of leading this council. He's done it before, and I always say to you, what matters isn't the mistakes you make, it's what you do next. And Howard Sykes has stepped forward. This is a poison chalice in many ways. Yet he's stepped forward and said, we are ready. He is ready. You have to support him. The Royton Independents have to support him. The Failsworth team have to support him. I don't know what to say about Cameron Guffey. I do have a dossier. I will share it with Howard Sykes. I contemplated sharing it with you guys here today, but I didn't want to. I still want to believe. I still want to believe that we can come together when it matters. Take this time, not just take this town out of Labour's hands, because that's what we've done. We've delivered our end of the bargain. We now need those we've elected to be the grown-ups in the room. Mark Ince. Mate, just sit down and abstain. Stop talking nonsense and bringing 16 or 17 independents together. Even if you brought 16 or 17 independents together, you'd have to have them under one group. Stop talking nonsense. You've been outmaneuvered. If you want to serve Shaw, if you want to serve the wider borough, abstain. We accept you can't vote with Howard Sykes because he's your direct opposition in Shaw. But you and Lisa Navesy should abstain from both Howard Sykes and also abstain from Arood Shah. My name is Raj Amir. If you find value in these transmissions, please like, please share, please consider buying me a coffee. I'm committed to continue until the end of May, which will see us through the first council meeting. And then that will be pretty much it in my journey with you in this format. Our subscriptions haven't got higher, and I need to go and somehow get on with my life, raise my daughter, and get myself to a general election, essentially. Thank you. Good night.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011, he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.